I want to go over some hunting basics and how you can be a successful whitetail hunter every year. And I think if you focus on these 5 things, whether it's September or January, then you're going to be successful in deer woods. You know, everyone talks about hunting during the rut, making sure that bucks are flying around. It's almost like if you're a really good hunter, you shouldn't have to rely on the rut to put a buck in front of you. They're out there, they're moving. And these 5 things will make sure that you can put a deer in front of you every single year. And we'll start off just real quick, we'll go through these. Number 1, the oldest buck in the area. Maybe you don't even care about shooting the oldest buck in the area, the most mature buck. And the oldest buck in your area might be a 2 or 3 year old, might be 7-year-old. Doesn't really matter. But you need to hunt every time you go out in the woods as if you're hunting that oldest buck. And what I mean by that is that a mature buck, if he sees you, hears you, or smells you, he's going to run away. So you have to make sure he doesn't see you, hear you, or smell you. Now, does and fawns, that combination right there, they're a 2-sense animal. They just need to see you, hear you, smell you. 2 of those, and they'll spook. A lot of times that doe will stomp her foot, she'll circle downwind, get your scent, and then go. Her mature buck was gone when he just saw the hint of movement in the first place. Of course, fawns, they need 3 senses. A lot of times they want to hear you, see you, or smell you, and even then they don't really spook a lot of the time. So if you hunt as if you're hunting the lowest hole in the bucket of mature bucks, then you're always going to be on target. And that means you're actually using predatory skills when you're going in the woods and making sure that you're trying to hide yourself and then really attack or shoot, draw your bow when the moment of truth arrives. And that's at a time when the buck finally knows, or deer, or doe, or young buck knows that you're there, is when that moment of truth arises, not 200 yards earlier when they heard you, smelled you, or saw you. You know, make sure you're being a predator at all times. Number 2, and this is something that I have to emphasize a lot, and it seems like something that most hunters should know, but I find a lot of them don't. And you know, there's a real confusion on where you hunt in the morning and where you hunt in the evening. Morning should be by where you think a deer beds, and you're waiting for that deer to come back to you. Bedding area. If you go in a food source, a lot of times they're already there at daybreak, so you spook them, and then you don't get to hunt them in the evening either because you spooked them out of that food source. You need to go in the bedding area. You need to go around food, not through food. Let's say you have a bait pile and you're in northern Michigan hunting. If you go into that bait pile in the morning, they're probably not coming back in the evening because you just spooked them. Instead, go to 200 to 400 yards away and figure out where they're coming back to, what direction they're going to, a small knoll out in a swamp, a little island, maybe a hardwood ridge. Come in well away from and around that food source, get in that position, wait for the deer to come back to you. Evening should relate to that food source movement. Either you're hunting 50, 100 yards away from the food source and allowing those deer to pass freely, go to that food source, whether it's a bait pile, food plot, ag field, stand of oaks on public land, apple trees in a remote corner of some old homestead on public land, whatever it might be. You're allowing the deer to go by you because you have a reasonable expectation of where they're bedding during the day. That safe spot during daylight hours will be a thick area. They're traveling through that food source and going, or that little small area, and traveling to that afternoon food source. You're hunting that evening spot, that funnel, that transition. But you're hunting an evening, something that relates to food source movement, not the bedding area, and not necessarily on the food source, because once you spook that out, that acorn flat they're going to, that distant ag field, whatever it might be, then you find they're not in that bedding area where you're going to hunt. And that's the problem. Whereas if you spook out the bedding area, then they're not going to be in the food source. If you spook out the food source, they're not going to be in the bedding area. So you can't afford to spook either, and that's why you really want to focus on hunting food source in the afternoon, but not spook the food source. And you want to hunt bedding areas in the morning, but not spook out the bedding area. I hope that makes sense, but morning, bedding, afternoon, food source. Number 3, never count on deer not smelling you. If you hunt as if deer that are downwind of you always smell you, then it's hard to fail. It's really easy to fail if you think that a mature buck or doe is going to not smell you because you're using some scent contraption machine, gel, spray, whatever it might be. Now, we use spray on our legs, we wash our clothes, we keep rubber boots clean. We don't expect to leave a lot of scent on the way in and out of a stand. But if your scent is blowing directly at a deer within bow range, out to 100 to 150 yards, depending on the habitat. If it's real open hardwoods, they'll smell you even further away. If it's conifers, something thick, it'll be shorter distance of 100 yards, 75 yards. Bottom line is, if you think that you're going to fool a deer's nose when you're on stand and blowing your scent at that deer, then you're going to fail. So that's something, is if you hunt and you put your stand location in an area where you never expect deer downwind of you, not to say that never happened, that's what hunting is all about. But if you plan to actually set your stand up and blow your scent into a non-deer area, then you're going to succeed far more often than you fail. Number 4, hunt thicker cover instead of open hardwoods. Look for those areas where you find a concentration of old rubs. Find trees that look like they were scarred several years ago, trees that were scarred last year, fresh sign from this year. You want that combination. I call it historical sign. So sign that deer have been there for years and not just 1 year. Thick cover, good sign. That equals a lot of transition areas, buck cruising areas, or even bedding areas. You'll find a lot of concentrations around food sources. You always find a bait pile in baiting areas because you'll find a concentration. All of a sudden you're walking through open public land, there's no sign, and all of a sudden you start seeing rubs everywhere. The first thing you do is start looking for a bait pile in deer blind, because there'll be concentration of rubs around bait piles. That's not the area that I'm talking about. I'm talking about those secure remote areas where you find a concentration of sign, historical sign, evidence that deer and bucks have been there for years. That's where you want to hunt and concentrate. Either you're identifying that as a bedding area where deer are leaving from there going to food, or they're going between those areas and through those areas in search of does during the rut. Either way, but you're relating that as a bedding area, a secure movement area, and then that connects to food. And that starts to differentiate between this is a morning stand, this is an evening stand, because you're recognizing both of those. Number 1 though, use the weather. You have a weekend to hunt, choose the best cool cold front day. If Sunday's better than Friday, Saturday, then choose your best stand for Friday, your best set of stands for Sunday, I mean. If it's the other way around, always slant your hunt towards the best weather, even if you just have a weekend to hunt. If you have 7 days to hunt, that's all you have each year, you take that 7 days off and hunt, then really look at a combination of stands and where you can hunt for your best stands on the best weather days and your worst stands on the worst weather days. Maybe you just want to go play pool, have a lunch, go out for breakfast on those bad days. Dylan and I were out down hunting in Illinois the one time, and we got out there, it was thunder and lightning, heavy rain off and on. I just didn't feel there was going to be deer moving at all. So what did we do? Dylan, what did we do?
We went and got breakfast, and I'm trying to think, but I remember it being very, very good. I can't remember exactly what I got, but I remember being
it was awesome.
Good.
Well, it's one of those little places like you walk in there and they all stare at you because they know you're not from there.
Oh yeah.
And it was a cool little agricultural area in Western Illinois. It was pretty cool. But I don't even know if the outfitter knows, but bottom line, I don't think they did they?
No.
Like this, we got in and we're like, man, this place sucks. The weather's bad. I'm getting out of here. Let's go eat some breakfast. And so we had a good time. But why spend the time out in the stand if the odds are really low and you might want to do something else? You know, I love to hunt, but I like to do a lot of other things, including relaxing and having good breakfast at times, which we did. Bottom line is though, you go back to that stand, now that stand's fresh. You didn't leave a bunch of scent around it. You didn't spook a deer that was 200 yards away in the brush and you didn't know it was there. You got out of there, no harm, no foul. We got out when it was raining, so our scent was washed away. So we got in and out at a good time to not impact the area. And that's directly why that you can shoot a lot more deer sitting on the couch. Really try to avoid the pitfall of one of the strongest phrases in the hunting, in deer hunting ever, that has kept the most deer safe, meaning that you need to hunt every chance you get. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I expect to shoot a mature buck every 5 times I sit on average, right around there. I'm not sitting 30, 40 times to shoot a mature buck. I'm hunting 15% of a season, 20% of a season, not 100% of the season. Someone said, well, I can just hunt every day. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We still shoot videos. We still put videos out. I like to finish a book or two, web class. I like to spend time with friends, family. So no, I can't hunt every day. I can hunt 15, 20% of the season. Now I can choose what days I hunt, but I want to make wise choices. It's not because I want to spend a limited amount of time. I just want to shoot the best bucks in the area and have the highest chance every time I go in the woods. That's it. If I want to shoot a doe, I can go out and shoot a doe just about any time. Young bucks. Doesn't matter if it's public or private land. I want the best chance at whatever buck I'm going after, and that's why I hunt by the weather, and that's why, without a doubt, 100%, you can shoot a lot more deer by sitting on the couch and being smart and not pushing it not overpressuring your stands, land, wherever you hunt, on public or private land. Don't fall victim to listening to some of that old advice. You can't kill them from the couch. I love it when my neighbors say that, but I'm not going to, and I hope you don't either. Those are my 5 top ways to consistently shoot and kill deer, whatever you're after, every single year. And again, you know, always hunt. Number 1, that lowest hole in the bucket. If you really look at, you know, mature bucks are going to move when the weather's good. They're going to be in morning bedding and afternoon food sources. There's not much in between. They really are sticklers about where they bed down. Never count on deer smelling you in a mature buck it's so critical when it comes to that mature buck. If he smells, gets a little hint of, you won't even know he's there. He just turns around, walks away. Fall cover, an historical sign. That's where those bucks gravitate to after they shift from their summer areas. The summer areas are completely different. You use the weather. The bottom line is, if you're hunting as if you're hunting the oldest buck in the neighborhood, you have to hunt this way. All these points right here. And regardless of what you're after, it'll become a lot easier for you. And as you gain experience throughout the years and learn these 5 ways to hunt deer, then you're going to be years ahead of a lot of hunters that have really beat themselves up and hit their head against a wall by following this advice of you can't kill them from the couch, things like that. You'll be a lot further ahead, and you'll be able to enjoy hunters, and we'll probably retain you in the hunting ranks too for the rest of your life, and that's a really good thing too. Follow these 5 things, enjoy success, and I hope you have a great hunt this fall and beyond. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.